Okay, it's 6:30, so we'll call our meeting to order. And welcome everyone. And thank you, Council, for being here. I know it was short notice and we had a lot of things to get done in a short time. So we'll start by the adoption of the agenda. So I need a mover and a seconder for motion 1224.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I have a question. Okay. A couple of comments and a question.
Okay, the comments can come when if you have a question on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. I thought we were on the, sorry. My apologies.
Okay. Okay, on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Anyone with a conflict of interest in the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. Okay, the only business we have is the memorandum of understanding, and I'll turn it over to CAO Lee for 2 seconds.
Okay, so the MOU on the agenda, this is a document that's required by the Universal Broadband Fund for any third party that's submitting an application for funding on another party's behalf. So this was an MOU that Rock Networks requires in order to be able to submit the application for funding. This MOU doesn't, this is not the definitive agreement. This is not something that commits council to the project. This is simply allows for Rock Networks to be able to submit the application on our behalf. The MOU, when it was originally drafted, Rock Networks had provided us with an MOU, and they've done this work for other, many other municipalities in Ontario and Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. So the MOU that we had received originally, it did specify that although it didn't tie, subsequent councils to the project, it did put Rock Networks in a position where they would be designated as the network operator. In New Brunswick, where we have a little bit more stringent procurement acts and regulations than they do in other jurisdictions, we can't do that. We have to go through an RFP process. So when we identified that we couldn't do that, that kind of threw them for a little bit of a loop, because that is their way of being able to recover the money that they've invested in the project, with the case studies that they've done and building the application on our behalf and stuff like that, right? So if council recalls, we did the phase 1 study, which was the Rock Networks provided like the GIS, and they that's where they kind of mapped out Beldoon so that they could have an idea of what type of infrastructure was needed for this type of project. We paid them for that. That's done. We've collected, everything that came along with that. But since then, all of the work that they've done, they've not been compensated for. And the way that they recover that is by being the network operator. So without us being able to, guarantee that they were going to get that, that kind of put them into a bit of a situation where they needed to make sure that there was a way for them to eventually recover, the work that they've put into that, be able to recover some cost. So it was actually quite easy. They simply said, as long as the MOU acknowledges that the information that's captured in the package that's being submitted is their intellectual property, which it is. They've done all the work. We haven't paid them for it. What that at least allows them to do is, if a future council decides that the project is viable, and if we receive funding for the project, and if we move forward, and if we go through an RFP process, and if Rock Networks is not the successful proponent, they at least have the intellectual property that they can sell to the successful proponent to be able to recover some of the costs that they've injected into this so far. So that was just a little paragraph that we inserted into the MOU. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. For just so council is aware, this is not the definitive agreement. This is not something that says that this project is moving forward. All this does is allows for Rock Networks to submit the application. And it's the reason that the special meeting was called is because the application is due on Monday. And so they required this pretty quickly. So that's pretty much it. We've Rock Networks has reviewed the MOU. Legal has, to be honest with you, our legal really kind of redid everything in it. So it's certainly it has Andre's fingerprints all over it. So he's comfortable with all the language in it. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Landon. Okay, so we need a mover and a seconder for motion 1225.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that Beldoon Council accept as presented the memorandum of understanding between Rock Networks, Inc. and the Village of Beldoon regarding Beldoon broadband, and the mayor and clerk sign said MOU.
Second by Vivian. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things, 5 actually, 6. The first one is that, and I've said this before, that I don't think there's any dispute that people deserve to have decent internet in 2021. And I don't think that's the case with everyone in our municipality, from what I understand, and certainly rural communities are suffering in that regard, and it's wrong. So that's the first point. I absolutely agree that rural communities such as ours should be serviced as well as they can be and should be. But the question is whether or not this is the proposal that works. That's what we're all considering. And in relation to that, there are 4 facts that I would like to assert. And if anybody at the table tells me that these facts are incorrect or wrong, I welcome the interruption. Number 1, the first fact is that this process started in June of 2020. The second fact is, as of today, no one in the public domain knows the cost of this proposal or the cost of this project. Fact 3, no one in our village, other than us.
I'd like to interrupt.
Okay, go ahead, Stan.
In terms of no one in the village knowing the cost of this project, we're not voting on the project. We're not even assessing the knowledge of the project. It's actually, we have some ballpark figures of how much the total project might cost. The application would be if we're getting federal funding. Determining on what threshold the village is willing to take, just due to time, is going to be beyond us. That decision's not being made tonight. This is an application for, can we get funding for it? And then the next village, or the next iteration of this body is going to have to make that. So I would say that as much as it's a fact, it's misleading to guide it in the sense that this could be knowable data that needs to be presented tonight. And I just, point of order, and I'll yield the floor so you can keep going.
I've never said that it needed to be tonight, but I did say that it's not out there, and that's a fact. Third fact is that the cost of the investment of the village is not known. And you can come back with the same reasoning, doesn't change the fact.
The reasoning that the cost of the village is not known is because we know what the overall cost of the project is, and all the council is aware of that.
Right.
We don't know how much money we're going to get from the Universal Broadband Fund.
But that's not the point.
That's why we don't know what's going to cost.
That's not the point. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is, as of this moment, it's not in the public domain. Whether or not, whatever the reason is, it doesn't change anything. I'm not asking for a reason why. I'm just saying this is the fact.
Well, the council knows what the cost of this project is, and
Okay.
council knows what the amount the village would have to put in.
Then why not?
It's not made public because that's part of the submission of the funding
Okay.
application. So we don't want that information out there because every other company that's applying for funding will know what our application says.
It doesn't change the
that's right.
fact that it's not out there.
Well, it can't be.
Okay, at some point it may be,
It will be, definitely.
okay,
Sure.
but it's not right now.
Not right now. no.
Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
That's fact number 4. And so what I would like to do tonight, and those are not, the reasons aren't important. What is important is whether or not that's disputable, and those aren't disputable. There may be a reason. That's not, facts aren't disputable. So what I would like to do, Mayor Noel, at some point when it's appropriate, in now or in the next few minutes, whenever it is appropriate according to the rules, I would like to table this motion indefinitely and ask that you ask for a seconder.
Okay, do we have a seconder to table the motion? We need to get it on the floor. Everybody gets to vote on it, so we need a second.
Mr. Mayor, I'll counter with a motion to put the previous question, the limited amendments and any further discussion on the topic. Do I have a seconder? Just brings it to a vote. It's the number 8 on your cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll second Sandens.
Okay, but first, we got to deal with the first motion. Paul's already got a motion, so we got to deal with that one first.
If it doesn't have a seconder, we don't have to deal with it. It doesn't get brought forward.
No, it doesn't come forward unless without a seconder, that's correct. Okay, so no seconder? Okay. Okay, now on Sandon's motion. It was moved by Sandon, second by Tracy. Any questions on that motion?
Moves it to an immediate vote.
Moves it to a vote now?
Yep. The original.
Okay.
Everyone understand that? That's Sandon's motion is to move this to a vote.
So do we, if we have questions, can we go with that?
Yep. Okay.
I just
We have
wanna-
to deal with this one first.
Okay.
Then we'll go to the vote. Okay. Okay, on Sandon's motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay.
Nay.
1 nay, Paul. Okay. On the original motion, motion 1225, that we sign the MOU. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay.
Nay.
1 nay, Paul. Motion carried. Okay, we need motion 1226.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the meeting adjourn at 6:43.
Second, Tracy. On the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Okay, we're out of here. Stop that.